Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the A250 Leadership Series. I'm your host, David Fischer, and we're so glad that you are here. Tonight's going to be about two things. Young Washington, a film that we're releasing in theaters July 3rd, and what it means to be a leader. We are 1 week away from opening weekend. Grab your tickets now by going to angel.com/YW service. Or go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen. Over the next week, we're going to have 3 conversations. I'm really excited for this. And these conversations are built around 3 distinct themes: service, resilience, and integrity. We start with service because it's where we believe every great leader begins their journey. The themes guiding this series were developed with special thanks to a lecture series created at Belmont University's Power of Story course with a grant from the National Endowment for Humanities. A major thank you to all of them. This live event series was also made possible through Angel's collaboration with the Wonder Project, the creatives behind Young Washington. Tonight, we sit down with the men who wrote this story, and a man who has spent his life building platforms in service of others. Before we get into that, let's take a look at the trailer. You're going to love this, so buckle up. We'll see you after.
Why can I not become a British officer?
Because you are not British, George. There must be a path.
There is not for you.
Go dig my grave. Both wide and deep.
I sense a storm looming over the Ohio territories.
To tell this world.
I could go there, survey it for you.
So you have ambition.
Since the Crown sent me to serve, I've yet to have a good experience with a colonist.
I look forward to changing your opinion.
Much of that territory is unexplored. It's wild, unpredictable, and dangerous.
What are you called?
George Washington.
Whose for is that?
It's the French. And land claimed by the British Crown.
Demand the French leave.
Who does own this land, if not the one who has the will to tame it? Tell your king we will never leave.
Then they will force you to leave. Oh. These are not the open battlefields to which you're accustomed.
I have fought in a great many battlefields.
Not in the New World, sir.
If you fail, I'll have a colonial to blame.
This is a direct order, and we will obey it!
It's not your fault, George.
Major Washington.
You lost.
You started a war!
George, there's no fairness here.
That is not the way the world works. Then someone should remake it.
Choose your path. Make it yours.
Forward!
And prove them wrong.
In theaters July 3rd. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary. Buy tickets now at angel.com/Washington.
If you haven't seen that yet, I hope tonight's conversation gives you every reason to. Young Washington is in theaters July 3rd, and you can grab your tickets right now at angel.com/YW service or scan the QR code on your screen. Now, buckle up. Let me introduce our guests. Tom Provost is an award-winning screenwriter, director, and professor who also founded Bags and Grace, a charity that delivers food, water, and clothing directly to the homeless in Los Angeles. Diederik Hoogstraten was born in the Netherlands, fell in love with America while covering it as a journalist, and became a proud U.S. citizen. Together, Tom and Diederik co-wrote Young Washington with director John Irwin. It's going to be awesome to have these two on. And joining them tonight is Adam Curry, the Podfather,
co-inventor of podcasting and founder of Godcaster. I want to welcome all three of you. It's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks so much.
Tom, Diederik, and Adam, having you guys here today for this series is really important to Angel and to our Angel Guild. And before we get into the heart of tonight's conversation, let's give everyone watching just a quick sense of who each of you are. Tom, you co-wrote this film, and you run a charity called Bags and Grace that puts food and supplies directly into the hands of the homeless in Los Angeles. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm a film nerd. My earliest memory as a child is sitting in a movie theater. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I've been in LA since college. And I love to write. I love to edit. I love to act. Whatever anybody will pay me or not even pay me to do. So I'm just like that classic film nerd. I'm sure there are a lot of people listening very much like.
Love it. Love it. And what a powerful nonprofit to start. I bet it's just incredible to see the work that is, the mission that is, and how it impacts people's lives directly.
Diederik, you were born in the Netherlands. You covered America as a journalist, and now you are a citizen of America. You've co-written a film about the man who helped found this country, releasing the day before its 250th birthday. How does that make you feel?
It feels amazing, David. Just a quick fun fact. When I grew up in Holland, listening to my little radio, there was an important voice in my ear. Mr. Adam Curry was at that time, he can tell you all about it, on the radio in Holland. One of my idols right here on the screen. It's pretty special. Yes, one of the proudest days of my life was to become a U.S. citizen, September 2nd, 2019. 2,000 other people from 150 other countries and I waving little flags in Los Angeles. It happens. It was very special. And that was also the time that I started screenwriting. I'd connected with my dear friend Tom Provost. He and I have taken on many projects. This one is different from anything else, just to pay tribute to this man when he was a young man, and in that way paying tribute to this country that I'm so grateful for. It's spectacular, I have to say.
Incredible. And Adam, good to have you on the show tonight. Adam, you've been known as the Podfather, the co-inventor of podcasting, and now you're on Godcaster. Tell us a little bit about who you are and why this conversation matters to you.
Well, I'm also a Angel Guild member. I just want you to know, as one of my credits. So I'm here there's no coincidences in the kingdom, but literally Diederik and I met on an airplane on the way back from Nashville. I was listening to a podcast episode about young Washington about what George Washington that Glenn Beck had put together. Sure. And this guy turns around and starts talking to me in Dutch. I'm like, okay. And he has this young Washington hat on. I'm like, okay, God, I got it. What's going on here? So I grew up in mainstream radio and television, as Diederik said. I started in the Netherlands. I'm American. We moved there when I was 7, and moved back to the States in '86. I was on MTV for 7 years, hosting, producing, writing. I had a lot of hair. I did the Headbangers Ball. Now, almost 25 years ago, I would have told you, yes, I invented or co-invented podcasting. But 3.5 years ago, my wife and I got radically saved. And now I know that was not exactly how it happened. I was a vessel. He worked through me. And as I look back on my career, now I see the path that he laid out for me every single step of the way. And that led me to Godcaster, which is, for listeners, is an app on Apple and Android. But really what we're doing is we're helping faith-based radio stations transition to digital, because otherwise they're riding their audience into heaven. But the real mission that was put on my heart is to lift 1,000 voices. So we're starting hyper-local radio stations with music, a local podcast, and really we're finding that turning churches into local radio stations has been very successful. And so that's what I'm doing, along with my podcast work still.
I love that. I especially love the idea of being a vessel, right? That, a vessel is poured into, right? And there's something that's corollary here to the subject of tonight, this man young Washington, that he was a vessel that was poured into. Tom and Diederik, I'd love to ask, there is a version of George Washington that everybody knows, right? And it's kind of, it's the guy on the dollar bill, it's the father of our country, but you both chose to tell the story of before all that, right? Why did you choose to do that?
Well, it was John Irwin, the director's vision, right? And we were blessed enough to be hired to bring his vision to life. But Diederik and I both would agree with John that to understand, to look at and understand, examine how President George Washington became George Washington that we know, it was very important. And we think it's very important for everybody today because his formative years were so difficult. They challenged him and they made him into the man he became. So I think it's very edifying. The story is difficult.
I would add to that, there's a biography from which we borrowed heavily, Joseph Ellis' brilliant book, His Excellency. And I think it's Ellis who makes the comment, father figures can be extremely difficult to approach, to understand, to truly get to. It can be so intimidating. And so if George Washington is the father of the country, naturally there's going to be this distance. There is this sort of enigmatic quality. And what John Irwin, visionary director, obviously wanted to do, as he did with King David from the Old Testament, he wanted to get to what made this man, what made this boy tick. How did he become who he later was? How can we get closer to him? That's really the purpose of this film, because we believe by showing the messiness, the challenges, the failures, the struggles, we actually relate much more to him, love him more, admire him more, and take him, bring him closer to all of us so that we can respect him properly.
That's fantastic, Diederik. I think we find ourselves right now at a very specific point in time in American history, right? And you came actually from outside of America and fell in love with it. And just tell us a little bit about what this moment in time means to you.
I would say, Adam can confirm this, coming from other countries, we realize, I think, most clearly, vividly, intimately, how special America is. We know other places just aren't like this. Sometimes I want to say to people who, again, of course, America's not perfect. No country is. But I want to say to some of my friends who have a problem with America, go over there for a little bit and report back. See where you want to live. This long, lasting experiment, it's still going strong. And so the ability to tell this story of the origin story of the origin, if you will, is extremely important, I think. As a side note, Hollywood is not doing much around this anniversary of the United States. I'm just grateful that we, under John Irwin's leadership, are able to do this. Wonder Project, Angel Studios, you guys have taken the lead here to celebrate and to realize what we have. I think Adam could speak to that too, as someone who's lived in different places as well.
I love how it really takes a Dutch guy to help everybody realize how special we are here. But Diederik is absolutely right. In fact, your whole story is the American story. And that's what and we've only known each other just a week or two, but we've had some lengthy conversation. We do share that history. And you're so right. People have no idea what it's like living in other countries. And I've lived in many countries. Including the UK, I've lived in Uganda, I've lived in Belgium, I've lived in all these different countries, and America is by far the best. As you said, we have our problems, of course, but it comes down to the Constitution. We have something that literally no other country has in the way ours was written. And so for me, and of course, because I did go into Dutch school in 5th grade, so I didn't learn a lot about George Washington. Literally, he couldn't tell a lie when he chopped down the cherry tree. He had the wooden teeth, and he's on the dollar bill. That's pretty much what I knew. I learned more just I'm 61, so I learned more throughout the years, but the movie was mind-blowing, certain aspects of it, which I really just hadn't realized, because I don't think there's a lot written about the This to me, this is like the prequel. It's like Star Wars prequel to the whole story, and that really surprised me. And I was just blown away by it.
Absolutely. The idea that John had this vision as the director of this film, for any director that has a vision, for any screenwriter, I mean, it's a very tough process to get from the page to the screen, right? And to actually pull that off. And it takes a whole team dynamic to bring all of that together and hit it just right. And when I think about Washington at 22 years old making choices that cost him something, right? Like he chose duty over ambition, over his own safety. He felt that duty on his heart. And for Tom and Diederik, how did you grapple with the writing of that journey that Washington took himself to make it feel more human and maybe a little less like we're reading out of a history book?
In one way, it's never easy, but in one way it was easy because his life is an amazing story. And it was something I knew nothing about. My mother was an American history professor. I drove her crazy because I had no interest in what she was doing. I just wanted to watch movies. And we've laughed that my mom she died young, smiling down from heaven because I had to read 5 Washington biographies. But just told the story. We made a couple of little timeline changes, but the story is essentially true. And so in that way, I felt like, wow, here's this amazing story. Let's just tell it in order the way it happened.
Agreed. And David, what you were getting at there too, it was really interesting and really compelling, I think, to show him as a young kid struggling and suffering and being, frankly, very ambitious, very driven, but from a place of ego. We all know it. I've definitely been there as a young man. What's remarkable is that the movie, it ends before he's 23 years old. He will have gone through an entire transformation where he realizes that ambition is fine, but it's all about serving others and ultimately serving God. But it's never that explicit in the film. We try to be nuanced here, but he clearly realizes that in order for his life to have meaning, he's going to have to serve others. I won't give any spoilers away, but we see it at the opening and ending scene pretty vividly that the only way to go forward and be successful in his own eyes is to start serving others around him. And his mother plays an instrumental role in that. I want to call out the cast. Mary Louise Parker as his mom is just beautiful. Yes. Kelsey Grammer is remarkable. I wish he had more screen time. Sir Ben Kingsley, of course. What a nice surprise for us, for him to read to act out our words. We have Andy Serkis, brilliant as well. So terrific cast. And then William Franklin Miller, who plays George Washington, I think is a treasure. As my wife says, he's also easy on the eye. So that's pleasant for anyone watching.
Well, I was worried during casting because this movie lives or dies on George. And he's incredible. And I think he will be a big star. He's very easy to look at, but his acting is phenomenal. I just think he's
Yeah, he crushed it. It was just it's amazing, and I can't wait for our audience, our guild members, to be able to see this. Speaking of service, Tom, you founded Bags and Grace, and a lot of times from a screenwriter's own human experience comes the depth of writing, the closeness to the writing that goes on, and I think. You don't, Tom, just write about service, you actually serve. And the experience of showing up for people who are in need, it can shape the way that a story comes together. And how did that shape a little bit of the way you approached writing about Washington?
I was raised by 2 servant leaders. My parents modeled giving to my brother and I every day. And so for me, I don't think about it as being a good person. It's just, if I see a need, I try to do something. And LA has one of the biggest homeless populations in the world. And so they're just like, what can I do? I can give stuff to people that need it. But that definitely, and Diederik and I talked a lot about it as we were writing, it definitely infused the writing just in terms of the experience of being a servant leader, and George Washington is like the ultimate example of a servant leader. I didn't even want to be president. He kind of did it because he needed to do it, and everybody, he was the best choice. So, and we have some examples in the movie of when he lets his ambition go and decides to serve those around him. It's very powerful.
I mean, Adam, you too. I mean, you've started Godcaster, and I think I look at the faith community and how integral service is, right? To understand how has, the thought of service had a way of breaking into your own work.
Well, first I'd say, the whole young Washington story is I identify with it because, yes, what he did was a lot of grit, just elbowing through it. There was kind of a centralized source, the British Crown, and he was out there literally trying to map a new landscape, and along the way he kind of sees the lay of the land. I identify that because that's where I was 25 years ago. Here's the monolith of corporate broadcasting. I'm trying to, come up with something that's decentralized. And by the way, you invent podcasting, you make zero money. I mean, that's not how it works. So what I love the most, and I'm being very careful because, yes, I realize no spoilers. There's a moment in the movie, which I think is a little time accelerated, where George Washington realizes, and you as the viewer realize, providence was there. God had his hand in this whole thing. There's a reason why he wasn't killed, and he realizes this. And to me, it's a great way to remind people who's really in charge. That's really what I felt. I'm like, of course, because this whole movie, there's a lot of explosions and booms and a lot of stuff going on, which, quite frankly, I'm all for that. I'm a Texan, I like that stuff. But when you realize that part, it's just wow, it's mind blowing. And so that's how I feel. So when it comes to service, of course, it's so logical once you see that why he then, of course, went on to be the first president. And in my own world, it's like, well, the whole Christian radio community is based on donations, so it's all God's economy. So for me, that just fits in perfectly. And it was a great reminder watching the movie.
Thank you. I mean, I think when I think about all three of your answers there and how you're connecting with us as the Angel Guild, it's powerful because the Angel Guild as a membership community, there's so much. When we talk about amplifying light, we're talking about excellent stories that are honorable and authentic and admirable and truthful and honest and lovely and noble and joyful. And those are all elements that, when you serve, it's like being grateful or having gratitude. When you serve, you actually embody what it means to amplify light. It's pretty hard to serve someone and just stay in a tough, punched up spot. But when you actually give of yourself, this is the law of the gift, right? The law of the gift is the more I give, the more I receive. And we know that together. And this is the more that Washington gave, the more that he was given responsibility. And I feel like you guys captured that brilliantly. And congratulations on that. Really powerful.
Could I just say something about as a newbie here in the faith? The whole vibe of Angel Studios was extremely attractive. The whole crowdfunding of The Chosen, the whole idea of how that came to be and how you turn that into a model. And what I'm most hopeful about is getting people to movie theaters. It's almost become vinyl is cool again. I really have a feeling that we can bring young people back into the theaters for this type of content. And the whole model you've been built around that. I love the QR code, share it forward. I mean, this is so spot on. I think it's a really important part of the whole ecosystem that Angel Studios and Wonder Project, that all of you are trying to put together. I just love it. Just want to say that.
I think it's really important to us that it's not a history lesson. It's an action adventure. It has romance, and it is about a young person. So just to again amplify what Adam was saying, I think it's a movie that really that we hope will attract not only, Reagan and Bush and Obama library members, but the youth, because it has so much to say to teenagers and people in their 20s in a really powerful way.
Yeah, our youth are hungry for this, right? The next generation is actually a very generous generation. I've seen so many of the next generation pause their careers to serve. More than ever before, there's a lot that want to find someone to model after and to serve. And it can be hard sometimes when you see so much that's going on in the world and the wealth divide and all the different things that can happen at times. But when you see someone that gives of themselves like Washington, this is where I just feel like John and Tom and Diederik, you captured something. The three of you captured something together that Adam and I can sit back and look at it and go, wow, you guys did something here that's pretty special, and it's timeless. That's what's beautiful about this story, is it's not like, oh, let's put on our patriotic hats and go back in time. It is just as relevant today as it was 250 years ago. And when we are 250 years into this experiment as a country, and we do feel a bit more divided than probably in a long time, put it that way, what does Washington's story say to that? I just want to open that up to the three of you.
I'll say that I think there's something deeply unifying about this story. I think about the work of Jonathan Haidt, who wrote Anxious Generation and many other books, and he's lately been on the circuit talking about anti-fragility, going against the cultural moment where a lot of us feel very fragile and very sensitive. And what John Haidt says is, no. We were designed to be, and not just to be not fragile, to be anti-fragile, to be strong, to be rooted. What I think this movie shows, over 250 years ago, 1750s, he was that way, like many others, like most of us. Now, of course, they also didn't really have a choice. But I think the story of young George shows us that we are strong, that we can persevere. In fact, that through failure, we come out stronger and better. As his mother says in the movie, failure is God's tutor, really. Like, it's God's way of testing you and teaching you. And if you're not listening, you're failing twice. But if you do listen, you're learning, you're growing. That's what George is shown us back in the 1750s, just as true today. But that's what I want my kids to pick up. When they're a little older, they'll watch this movie. They're tired of me now. We're talking about it and working on it. But when they're a little older, they'll see it and hopefully pick up on that message. That's we all have this strength in ourselves. I happen to believe it comes from God, and it's providential, a word that shows up in the movie quite a bit. But whatever you believe, we can all unite around that. And I think it's an important message, especially for young people today.
America doesn't have a political problem. We have a spiritual problem. And this is, I'm so bullish on seeing the Gen Z and Gen Alpha generation having an interest in Christ, going to church. I mean, I know Hollywood people whose 13-year-olds ask for a Bible, and I'm like, where did this come from? This makes me very excited. In a funny way, I was reading, I think, the 7th Beatitude this morning, blessed are the peacemakers. And I think I've often confused that for blessed are the peacekeepers, but that's not it. Blessed are the peacemakers. And I look at Washington and knowing his story, I'm like, yeah, he was blessed in that way. And it doesn't mean that there's not conflict and that it's not complicated and difficult to create peace and to have peace. So in that regard, it was also, that inspired me as well. I think when people see this, they can get a little different view. Our country is built literally on guys like this. And it's not your typical, modern view of men or of a country in general. But I think we're learning very, very, very quickly that, this is who we are, and this is how we succeed, and this is how we can still be the greatest nation in the world and welcoming of all people who want to be part of be part of what we are and who we are, like Diederik.
Yeah, I love that, peacemaker versus peacekeeper. And when you're making something happen, right? The best servant leaders wait to be inspired to then drive forward. That's something that happens. And that inspiration can come out of our lives and how we live our lives through virtue and through practices of those virtues. And there can just be calling, right? And there's something about this film and this story that kind of lays out the kind of internal constitution of a young man who was called to do something powerful today, that you're speaking of. I'd just love to kind of open it up again for all of us to think about what exactly do you hope people will carry out of the film? Like, as you imagine them walking out of the film, what are they carrying out with them on July 3rd in their hearts and in their minds?
I'm going to say inspiration. The movie makes me cry, and I now know, of course, I wrote it, know it was going to happen, but it just makes you feel good about yourself and about our country, and that we all can unite and come together about our amazing history. And life is so difficult, and when we see a great story about someone there's difficulty and adversity still survives, it's just very uplifting for me.
Diederik?
Agreed, Tom. So well said. I often say, don't forget there is a beautiful little love story woven into this movie, and so there's some comfort in knowing that even if you don't get the girl, you can still become a great person in world history. It's a very little known story that we've sort of woven in and given a little bit more prominence in this, which I love, because it really does open up the movie, I think, to a very wide audience. If I can speak, Tom, focalized beautifully what we achieved, what we were trying to achieve writing it. If I can speak a little bit about Hollywood, like it is, David, as you know, like no one else, it's so important that we get people to go to this movie the opening weekend. And I say that in response to your question, because if we do, it is yet another signal, the signals that Angel has been successfully sending into this world for years now, another signal to Hollywood and the culture at large that we are a large audience. The faith and values genre, as my wife often says, it's not a genre, it's an audience. It's many, many millions of us here in the United States and across the world. If we show up for these movies when it matters, in the opening weekend, July 4th, we're only up against the Minions. I do believe that George Washington can take on the Minions. We, just see him fight in this movie and you'll believe it. If we do that, we will yet again express ourselves as a community, as a country, frankly, to say we love these stories, they matter to us, no matter where we come from. There is also, again, a unifying element to that. Like, let's all celebrate this together and send that message. And that doesn't mean there's no room for the horror movies that are dominating the box office, these days. There's room for everyone, but certainly there's room for movies like this that Wonder and Angel are producing.
I mean, it's the movie business, right? And I don't care what an executive thinks or cares about, they want to make money. It's movie business. And Project Hail Mary, the wild success of that movie, which I saw 3 times in 4 days, and how uplifting that movie is, if that sent a message. And so I'm just, again, affirming, if we can send a message through this movie also that this is a wonderful type of movie to make and people will go see it.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, these guys answer the question a little bit differently. Going back to that, Diederik and I both grew up in socialist Holland. And whenever people say, what's the real difference? I will say, well, you see a guy driving a nice car in Holland, the Dutchman would say, look at that guy, I'm going to key his car. In America, we say, I can be that guy. And this movie shows you that you can be that guy. You can be George Washington. Anybody can be that type of leader by the grace of God if you just trust and if you If you want to be a part of who we are and what we stand for, you can be that. You can be that guy. And yes, you need to go see it in the movie theater, a July 4th opening weekend. Hello, people.
No, every single weekend is a battle, right? And so when we open a movie, it's going to be all about the tickets that are sold for that weekend. And then we fight for the next weekend and the following weekend. And it is our Angel Guild that has come out time and time again to support these films that amplify light. And if Young Washington is a film that amplifies light, ladies and gentlemen, and you're seeing our writers here with Tom and Diederik, Adam coming on to show his support. I want to take you guys through just a quick rapid fire. I'm going to take each of our guests through this series, through this. And I don't want you to think too much about this, but we'll go around the horn. We'll start with Tom, Diederik, Adam. In one word, how would you define the film? Tom.
Inspirational.
Diederik.
Hopeful.
Celebratory.
Fantastic. Favorite scene in the film without giving spoilers?
Nice.
Tom, what do you think of?
The river.
Beautiful.
I'll say there is a scene between him and his half-brother that is difficult, but also beautiful and very important to show. There's conflict there, but it's always to drive the story forward and to keep seeking the light, as you say, David.
The Indian scene.
Yeah. Wow. These are great scenes. You guys, I can't wait for the Angel Guild and for our audience watching and tuning in right now to see this. One leader today, living or dead, who embodies service, aside from George. One leader today. Tom. Living or dead?
Sort of living or dead. Churchill.
Yes.
Churchill.
John McCain.
My pastor, Jimmy Pruitt, at our church.
That's beautiful. And the A250, what does America's 250th mean to each of you personally?
I was around the 200, right? And we got to see this amazing thing called the Freedom Train. Apparently there's a Freedom Plane, I guess. Again, it's just inspirational. The story of our country, and yeah, it is an experiment, but I don't care how difficult it is. It's going great. And yeah, it is so inspiring. I keep saying it, but it's just so inspiring to me that our country is here and has survived, and we are all a wonderful part of it.
Diederik.
To me, this is a moment that's all about gratitude, really. I am just so thrilled to be a part of this. Never would have thought this as a kid growing up in Holland, listening to Adam. And I'm grateful for what the country is to so many countless people. A saving grace. Quite literally, both my parents' families were saved by Americans in 1945. And so, this goes deep for me. And I think hopefully the movie will express that.
My first grandchild is due just around July 4th. She will be born in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I can't wait to show her what has happened in the past 250 years, show her our beautiful country.
That is beautiful. Finally here, Young Washington, it found its home. Wonder Project did a beautiful job putting that film together, and Young Washington found its home with Angel and the Guild audience. What was it about this community that felt right for this story?
It's an amazing community of diverse thought, even. I think a lot of people outside of the Guild don't realize that. It's an amazing community that with different thoughts can come together and share beliefs and share wonder. I mean, yeah, it's the Wonder Project. It's a great name for it. I'm a big sense of wonder guy. The movie provides a sense of wonder, but the Guild does also. I'm kind of amazed by the Guild and what the Guild does and says it supports.
Yeah. I hope to add to that, just adding to what Tom just beautifully said, like it's such a democratic structure that you guys have. I love that it's all of us. I'm a guild member as well. That all of us get to basically produce all these films, to be a part of it, to make decisions, taking that decision-making power away from small elites in different in a few cities, and instead spreading it out and sharing it. That's such a very American way of doing things as well, which I happen to love.
Yes. The podcast I currently do, No Agenda, we started it 18 years ago. We have never taken any advertisement or forced any subscriptions. We call it the value for value model. It's an international lifestyle. So when I see what Angel Guild is and how you have worked and how that has come together, we don't call our audience listeners, we call them producers. So I understand what you're doing. I get it. That's why I'm a member. That's why I support it.
What a great conversation, guys. I have really enjoyed being with you.
Tom, Diederik, Adam, thank you. What you shared tonight is a reminder that service is not a personality trait. It's a choice. And it's a choice Washington made over and over at 22 years old. Absolutely remarkable. I hope everyone watching makes that same connection when they see this film. Young Washington is in theaters in 1 week. July 3rd as part of America's 250th celebration. The link to get your tickets is on the screen right now. Don't wait. Go see it. Join us this coming Tuesday for the second A250 Leadership Series, where we'll be talking about resilience with the film's lead actor, that's right, William Franklin Miller. You are not going to want to miss this, and we'll see you then. And for those that missed the trailer earlier, we want to give you another opportunity to see it. So here you go, the Young Washington trailer one more time. Good night, everyone.
Why can I not become a British officer?
Because you are not British, George.
There must be a path.
There is not for you.
Go dig my grave.
I sense a storm looming over the Ohio territories.
I could go there, survey it for you.
So you have ambition.
Since the Crown sent me to serve, I've yet to have a good experience with a colonist.
I look forward to changing your opinion.
Much of that territory is unexplored. It's wild, unpredictable, and dangerous.
What are you called?
George Washington.
Whose fort is that?
It's the French. And land claimed by the British Crown.
Demand the French leave.
Who does own this land, if not the one who has the will to tame it? Tell your king we will never leave.
Then they will force you to leave.
Oh.
These are not the open battlefields to which you're accustomed.
I have fought in a great many battlefields.
Not in the New World, sir.
If you fail, I'll have a colonial to blame.
This is a direct order, and we will obey it! Fire!
It's not your fault, George.
Major Washington. You lost.
You started a war!
George, there's no fairness here.
That is not the way the world works! Then someone should remake it!
Choose your path. Make it yours.
Forward!
And prove them wrong.
In theaters July 3rd. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary. Buy tickets now at angel.com/Washington.